Hello everyone, I hope you're all well and thank you for joining me, Dave Knight, for this week's podcast, which is number 66 in our weekly releases. A huge warm welcome to you all as we get straight into this 9pm Sunday Settler. These weekly individual coaching podcasts are wrapped up into tailored Bulletproof Yourself wellbeing packages, which you can access via my website sundaysettler.com, clicking on the Bulletproof Yourself page. This week's Sunday Settler is entitled Full Intentions with No Pressure, and we'll be exploring the goals that we might set ourselves and the implications of the feelings that we attach to those goals. Could there be a way of achieving our aims without setting them as such, perhaps through just working with intent? That might be an interesting concept which we'll be considering further in this podcast. This is your time for 10 to 15 minutes, so please, I invite you to find your relaxing space. So I'm wondering what it is that you're working towards at the moment. What goals or milestones have you set yourself? Or even what goals or milestones have been set for you? What do you think attaining those success or achievement markers will give you? And some examples of these targets might be to lose 3 stone in 3 months, let's say, or to be able to wear clothes from shops that others love to buy from, to get away from it all and have 3 or 4 big holidays this year, pay your mortgage off by a certain time, grow your business and achieve a particular level of turnover, close that deal that you've been working toward for the past year or 18 months or so, to abstain from using drugs or alcohol, to go to the gym 5 times per week, run a marathon in 4 months' time, earn a specific level of salary, get that job promotion, and get that bigger car, that bigger house, all those type of things. And when setting your goals, there are pretty standard questions that you may have already asked yourself around these type of goal markers. How motivated am I? How and what is motivating me to get them? How am I going to achieve them? Who can help me? And how long will it take for me to get there? I might have asked some of these kind of questions during my career as a psychiatric nurse and whilst mentoring staff, if you like, or when working in the field of drug and alcohol services, drug and alcohol misuse, supporting people to change their habits. It's true that these type of questions serve to help people to focus in their life, monitor their motivation levels, or to identify the reason why they want their stated goal. However, I do wonder now whether I was innocently and unintentionally feeding the pressure that someone was already putting on themselves to achieve the goal that they were working towards. And I wonder if either you or someone else you know is doing that kind of thing too. Perhaps an important thing to know is why we do set those goals for ourselves. Why? And if you've asked yourself that question, ask yourself why again. Now ask yourself why again. So 3 whys. And although we're not actually speaking to others as such right now, we're not in a conversation, which means we're not in a discussion to elaborate on those 3 whys. By asking yourself a few times why you're setting yourself the goals you are, you will get closer and closer to the real reason as to why. So that's enough whys for now. But as human beings, we quite often set ourselves goals with an emotion attached to that goal. We will feel this when we achieve that goal, which means we're coming from a place of insecure thinking. We're chasing a secure feeling. We're chasing something, perhaps, that we might not ever experience. When I pay my mortgage off, I can quit my job and then I'll have no pressure. I'll be happy then. Does that sound familiar? When I get my job promotion and my big fat salary, things will be all right then. I'll feel less stressed and my partner and I won't have those arguments any longer. When I get to a certain weight, I'll know I'll be happier in myself then. I'll feel beautiful. If I get away from it all and have those 3 big holidays per year, I'll feel less stressed at home and at work. I've heard those statements so many times. I can relate to some of those statements. I really can. If we subscribe to the outside-in paradigm, these examples that I've just mentioned would seem perfectly logical, wouldn't they? However, what we know is that it doesn't work that way. Our experiences do not shape our thoughts. It just looks like that, and it feels really compelling that that's the way it works. Our thoughts shape our experiences, inside out. The goals, the outside events, the achievements are all freestanding, if you like. Then our feelings come from what we think about those events, scenarios and goals. Otherwise, we would all feel the same about them. And I only speak of what I know to be true, and amongst the many things I've shared with you over time, I recall at the age of 20, whilst at university, I wasn't particularly happy in my life. I can remember that very clearly. And knee injuries were halting my football playing career, and I couldn't play at the level that I knew that I could. And I was in a long-term relationship and going down the road of buying a house that I didn't want to buy. And I wanted to go travelling, but wondering whether it was just the right thing to do or not. I just didn't know. And I bought a nice car, and it cost me £6,000. Now, in my eyes, it was such a smart car, and I was at university, and for fleeting moments when people commented on the car and how cool it was nice. It was really nice. But I borrowed money from my generous sister to help pay for this car, and there was no pressure from her whatsoever for me to pay the money back that I'd borrowed from her. However, it was my goal to pay it all back in 1 year. I did manage that, I managed to do, but I remember working night shifts in order to do so. Once the car is paid off, I'll be happier, I thought. It just did not work like that. My happiness wasn't going to magically appear by paying for my cool car off that everybody commented on at the time. But I now know that it's impossible for it to work that way. How can a car make you feel like that? But now I know. I didn't experience the car as such. I experienced my thinking about the car. My thinking, the quality of my thinking, was the problem. Why did I want the car in the first place, and then to pay it off so quickly? And this was to distract me from the situation that I felt I was in. Why? I was trying to make others happy, and through the decisions that I was taking at that time. Why? I felt trapped. I created my experiences with insecure thinking. It was all my thinking. And I later did do the travelling and that I wanted to do, but I'll maybe talk about those kind of things on another occasion. But what if we had the intent to achieve our aspirations, hopes and dreams, but did not attach a feeling to them? Therefore, we're not chasing security with the goal. Rather, the goal would just be really nice and really cool and great to if it happened. What if we trusted that our thought had the intelligence to steer us? Just like the rudder in a ship, or the sperm finding the egg, or the acorn sprouting into the acorn tree, the oak tree rather. What if, with intent, we sat back and let it happen? There's a big difference between a goal that we attach a feeling to compared to a goal that would just be really cool to achieve. A really big difference there. And with that approach, our mind will become less busy. And I know from personal experience that with a quieter mind, amazing things can happen. They really can. During my first year working on my business, my son was 2 years old and my wife was pregnant. We were renting our house at the time, and for me it felt like now or never to get the business going, up and running. And looking back with those rocks on my back that I must have felt but didn't, I guess, realise at the time, I look back and what a lot of pressure that was to carry around with you. My goals, therefore, were chasing that feeling of security. Although signs were there in the business that the 3-month pipeline was improving, I couldn't pay myself for 4 months. And our biggest client payments terms were upwards of 90 days, and it was a struggle. We took a bank loan of £25,000, and thankfully that was approved. And with Christmas looming, at least we could buy ourselves and our family Christmas presents. But I'd been setting goals throughout the year, and X amount of courses per month, amount of clients. What else can be sold to our existing clients? Now, that was the biggie that I'll come to very shortly. But whilst extremely happy in my business and now supremely confident, if you like, with my business decisions, I know now rather that all my goals were coming from a place of insecurity, insecure thinking. It was coming from a busy mind, and it was needy. There was no doubt my positive thinking played a key role in my mind starting to quieten. But it wasn't just that. It was more than that. And I trusted myself that the business will go in the direction that I wanted it to. I stopped worrying so much about those goals. I still wanted them. I still cared about those goals. But I just had the intent, and I didn't have the emotion attached to them any longer. So on the last Thursday it was before Christmas, I went to bed and woke up at 3 a.m. in the morning, and that's how I roll. I have these kind of brainstorm, these ideas just come through. And it came through in the sort of early hours of that Friday morning. I've got it, that biggie that I just mentioned. Well, it came to me. What else can I try and sell to our existing customers? Well, the solution was within me. So, still wearing my pajamas and working away in our third bedroom. Let's be posh about that, shall we, and call it my office for now. I was wearing my thick socks to keep warm. It was a freezing cold winter's morning. Wife and child snoring away in their bedrooms. Freezing cold outside, as I say, with a coffee on the table or desk. I had designed rolling programs for my clients to cover many hundreds of staff, and which meant they didn't need to spend any of their limited time that they had planning anything. I planned it for them. I prepared the emails and sent them off all by 5:30, and I waited for their responses. 2 or 3 coffees later, by 8 a.m. on that Friday, the last Friday before Christmas, our pipeline had doubled for the next 12 months in advance. It was incredible, it really was. Now I just had to find another 10 or 15 training consultants to deliver the training, but it was absolutely worth it. But I wonder, can you think of a time when something has happened to you that seemed to just come from nowhere? A new thought, a great idea, having an unexpected, meaningful conversation with someone, attending an event, or seeing some information that you wouldn't have otherwise seen, and it proved useful to you, or meeting the person that you will spend the rest of your life with just out of the blue. It's not a coincidence that these kind of things happen. It's rather an intelligence that is steering you. But going back to those earlier goals and adopting a mild level of Cartesian logic here, what would happen if you didn't pay the mortgage off and had to stay in your job? Is there no way that happiness can be achieved? What if there was one or no holiday this year? Are you going to be more stressed than you'd planned? What if the job promotion did not happen? Would that mean things would never be okay and you'd always be arguing with your partner? In those events, you would still have you. You always have done. And you have the gift of free will to either think about things in whatever way that you choose to believe them to be true, or whether you want to take them as seriously. How do we know that we're going to feel a particular way after all, when all of our feelings come from our thoughts? We have tens of thousands of thoughts each and every day. They come and they go, and they are completely transient. We do not know what our thoughts will be in 10 minutes, do we? Unless we set our alarm to go off and register those thoughts there. But all those thoughts that we have, they're in the future, whether it's 10 minutes time or in 10 months time. And as we know, the future does not exist. It only exists in our heads, in our self-created reality, but it does not exist. And I sincerely hope that this is a message that is received by you in an empowering light, an optimistic, a positive, empowering light. If we start by questioning and being curious about those beliefs that perhaps we've been carrying around with us, and our goals, perhaps we're in a position to question, how do we really know how we will feel in the future when all we have is right now? The answer is we don't know how we'll feel in the future. We really don't. All we know is right now, as I've mentioned. And that might just help us to relieve some of the unnecessary pressure that has been placed on our shoulders by someone else, or that we've put on ourselves. Thank you ever so much for listening to this podcast, and we've considered the innocent, unnecessary pressure and illogical expectations that we can place on ourselves with goals that we attach a feeling to, an insecure feeling, a feeling that is coming from those extra layers that we don't of pressure that we don't need to be putting on ourselves. And chasing security via our goals gives us a busy mind and doesn't lead to happiness. Success does not bring us happiness. There are so many examples out there that show us that to be true. They are stand-alone, success and happiness. And having intent, however, with no pressure, and trusting the intelligence of our thoughts to guide us along the way, will lead to a quieter mind, leaving space for the magic to happen, as it did with me. But I appreciate you listening to this podcast, and if it has been of interest or useful to you in any way, please like, share, follow across your platforms, and suggest for someone else to have a listen to one of the podcasts too, or to get in touch and to subscribe to our newsletter via sundaysettler.com. And if you're feeling a little lost or stuck at the moment and think you would benefit from an initial call to discuss an area of challenge in your life, call me and we can take it from there. Please quote Full Intentions 10 and you'll receive a 20-minute free intake call, 10% off your first full session with me, and availability over the telephone to discuss anything that you'd like to clarify what we work through in our conversations. But until next week's 9 p.m. Sunday Settler, I'll leave you with something to digest. And whilst I was thinking about this podcast, my son had been practicing his guitar before school one morning, and it was a Beatles song that he was learning. And afterwards he was just muttering those words, "Whisper words of wisdom, let it be." And just at the right time, it was absolutely amazing that he come out with those words, intelligence and wisdom. But my only caveat to that is, let it be with intent. The only caveat. But thanks again for listening, and I look forward to speaking to you next week. Bye for now.